All right, freedom to experience peace. Freedom to experience peace. In the words of religious science founder Dr. Ernest Holmes, in The Science of Mind, he writes, "Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. Our inherent nature is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We will do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, of a love beyond our fondest dreams." Those words of Dr. Holmes are serving as our foundation this month as we apply the freedom factor each Sunday in a different way and to different aspects of our lives. Today, freedom to experience peace. To ensure that we're on the same page, let's define peace. There are lots of ways we could define the term, but I really love how a fellow Science of Mind minister defined it. She said, "Peace is not the absence of conflict, but serenity in the midst of it." Serenity in the midst of it. My guess is that she was intimately familiar with Ernest Holmes' definition of peace in the Science of Mind textbook. Peace is a state of inner calm, an inner calm so complete that nothing can disturb it. Wow. There's a wonderful parable that profoundly illustrates this definition, and it goes like this. There was once a king who offered a prize to the artist who would paint the best picture of peace. Imagine painting a picture of peace. What does peace look like? Many artists tried. The king looked at all of the pictures, but there were only two that he thought really captured peace. And he had to choose between these two. One picture was of a calm lake. The lake was a perfect mirror of peaceful, towering mountains that were all around it, and overhead was a blue sky with fluffy white clouds. All who saw this picture thought that it was the perfect picture of peace. The other picture had mountains too, but they were rugged and bare. Above was an angry sky from which rain fell and in which lightning played. Down the side of the mountain tumbled a foaming waterfall. This did not look peaceful at all. But upon closer inspection, you could see behind the waterfall a tiny bush growing in the crack of a rock. And nestled in that bush sat a mother bird on a nest. There in the midst of a storm and the rush of angry water, a mother bird had built her nest and sat upon it in perfect peace. This was the picture that won the prize because the king realized that peace is not the absence of conflict, nor the absence of storms, not the absence of rough waters, but calm and serenity right in the midst of it. In order to have the freedom to find calm serenity in the midst of conflict, in order to have the freedom to find peace, we need to understand two important things and then apply these two important things in our lives. Ernest Holmes speaks of them in the definition of freedom in the glossary of the Science of Mind textbook. He writes, "Real freedom means that we are created in the image of perfection and let alone and allowed to make the discovery for ourselves." Let me read that again. Real freedom means that we are created in the image of perfection and let alone and allowed to make the discovery for ourselves. Two tremendously important concepts are contained in those few words. First, that the very essence of perfection, life, God, spirit, etc., is who and what we are. That's who we and what we are. Second, we are given complete choice as to how we're going to live our lives. It's pretty good news, right? We can discover and live from this truth or not. It's our choice. So what does this have to do with peace? What does this have to do with peace? Everything. You have a center in you that is absolute peace, the very essence of peace itself, and you get to choose to access it at any time, anywhere. The key is that it is there just waiting to be accessed. But in our human experience, we often let outside conditions, and I'm going to raise my hand as the first person who does this, circumstances that dictate our inner life. It's so easy to do that. Wow, we're triggered so easily by anything that we see that's going on out there, and we're bombarded constantly, aren't we? We have to stand in guard of all of this. Mary Morrissey in her Prosperity Plus class breaks down the word of circumstance. Okay, so let's take a look at circumstances. Like outside, circum means surrounding, and stance is where we stand. Circumstances, the conditions surrounding where we are right now. We think our peace is being wrenched from us by the conditions in which we stand. But that really isn't true. It's so easy to say, gosh, they made me upset, or look what they did. This has got me all in turmoil. And it isn't that. It's our perception of the situation that holds us. It's what we think of the situation. Has anybody ever heard of Flip Orley? No? Mm-hmm. No? Okay. YouTube. Look for him on YouTube. He's not a spiritual master, nor is he a guru. In fact, he's an entertainer. He's a hypnotist, or to be specific, he calls him Hypnoman. In one of his shows, he hypnotized a big burly man into thinking that the man next to him was Dracula, and vice versa. The big macho man, in his little girl voice, looked at Flip and said, "He's really scaring me." That's a big old guy, right? And another man was hypnotized to believe that he was in an argument with his hand. With his hand. And he and his hand were really going at it. At one point, he said to his hand, "You're really starting to piss me off." The audience was cracking up with laughter. There was nothing really happening to scare the first man or enrage the second man, except their belief, their perceptions that there was something. It was all in their minds. They were up against imaginary foes. We don't need the suggestion of a hypnotist to be bound by our beliefs or our perception of what we are experiencing in our lives. We often act like the hypnotized men who thought they were being stalked by enemies. There was a woman who dreamed that she was being chased by a bear. When the bear finally cornered her, she asked him in terror, "Are you going to kill me? Are you going to kill me?" The bear calmly replied, "I don't know, lady. You tell me. This is your dream." Right? Are you going to live a life of peace? I don't know. You tell me. It's your life. You tell me. We've all been given the gift of choice. We get to choose to look at any situation from a perspective of serenity and calm, like the bird in the nest, or from a place of fear and upset, like the man who was afraid because Dracula was out to get him, or the other angry guy at his own hand. No matter what's going on around you, the Spirit of God is the peace that can soothe and comfort you. The infinite is always at peace because there is nothing to disturb it. God knows no disruption. God is never disturbed, right? A realization of our oneness with omnipresence brings peace when we realize that we're not separate and that nobody is separate from Spirit. The Spirit of God is your divine connection with the peace that passes all understanding. Here are 5 ideas to help you claim this peace, to help you raise your consciousness to the vibration of peace. So number 1 is P for pray. Stay connected to Spirit through prayer and meditation. Not for a specific reason or purpose or to manifest something, just to commune with God. How many times do we think only to pray when something's not going right? What about just those times to check in and connect and to feel that overwhelming sense of peace and joy? I'm going to give you an illustration that will bring us back to this in a moment. Number 2, envision. Envision everyone on planet Earth. That's a tall order right there. As a member of your holy human family. Everyone. Everyone. Not the dysfunctional family, but the holy family. I remember listening to an Abraham CD some time ago, thanks to Suzanne, who passed them on to me, in which Esther Hicks told of a time when she and her husband Jerry were in their monster bus packing bags to go to the hotel where their next seminar was taking place. It was a relatively tight space, and Esther was getting annoyed, actually angry, at Jerry for being in her way. Jerry suggested that she pretend that he was her granddaughter Kate instead. Kate is 4 and can do no wrong in Esther's eyes. It only took a few moments for her anger and annoyance to dissolve, and as Esther immediately said, "Oh, you precious one, I love you so much. How wonderful. You want to help Grandma pack." Nothing else changed. Jerry was still standing in Esther's way. Nothing changed but the way that she saw and envisioned him. It's a good practice. Number 3, anchor. Anchor your heart in love. As you just saw in this illustration, when we anchor our hearts in love, we up-level our vibration, and peace is a natural and automatic byproduct. This is such a big topic that I'm going to save it for further discussion about it later in the month. But remember it, it's a biggie in the peace department, anchoring in love. Number 4, C, create. Reminders or rituals of living from create reminders or rituals of living from a vibration of peace rather than from automatic reaction. Thich Nhat Hanh is the Vietnamese monk who was nominated for the Nobel Prize for his remarkable peace work, and he's the author of Peace is Every Step. When you call his center in France, the phone is never picked up on the first ring, and probably not the second. But when it is, you can just feel that you are speaking with someone that they are offering, that someone is offering you their full attention and calm, clear presence. Why is this? It's because they have this peace reminder that is part of the practice of every single staff member. Before picking up the telephone, they consciously take 2 breaths, and they make sure that they are present and they are centered and they are peaceful for the caller. Wow, what a wonderful experience. So if you decide that the telephone will be your spiritual alarm clock, and take a deep breath before answering, like the people in Thich Nhat Hanh's monastery, it might be helpful for you to put a little note to yourself on your telephone to serve as a reminder so that you don't go into automatic pilot. You know, oh my gosh, the phone's ringing. I got to answer it right away. For some reason you think they're going to hang up, right? You might miss something. How about this? Before picking up the phone, take a deep breath and say, "I am calmed, poised, and at peace with the world." It's actually in the Science of Mind textbook. Another practice is take a breath break. Say as you breathe. This is from Thich Nhat Hanh as well. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. I'm fortunate, for now, crossing my fingers and knocking on wood, that my Apple Watch has a feature that reminds me every so often to breathe. It goes ding, and I'll look at it and it says, "Remember to breathe." Well, thank you. It also tells me to stand. You know, it's time to stand. You need to get up and stand. It's like, okay. My computer at work has the same thing. Flashes up and it says, you know, time to take a mouse break. Time to, look away from the screen. These are good reminders, and you can set them up yourself with sticky notes or alarms, anything you want. And this leads us to our final idea. Enjoy. Enjoy each moment as a sacred moment of profound connection with Spirit. How many of you have heard of Brother Lawrence? You remember the story of Brother Lawrence? He was a simple 17th century French monk whose writings about using daily activities as spiritual practices has inspired millions of readers. We know very little about his life except that he entered the monastery after years spent as a foot soldier. He described himself as a clumsy fellow who used to break everything, and apparently his superiors agreed. Clumsy and seemingly untalented, he was exiled to the monastery kitchen to wash pots and pans. But Brother Lawrence did not regard his job as a distraction from spiritual life or as something to be finished quickly so that he could get on with his prayers. Instead, he decided to use washing and every other activity as an opportunity for remembering God, and constantly brought his attention back to this focus. After several years, the results of this practice became so evident that even the abbot of the monastery went to him for advice. And Brother Lawrence was able to make the remarkable statement, "This time of busyness does not, with me, differ from the time of prayer. And in the noise and clutter of my kitchen, while several people are at the same time calling for different things, I possess God in as great tranquility as if I were on my knees at the Blessed Sacrament." Which takes us back to the first idea, prayer. Simply to experience God. Simply to experience God. A Course in Miracles says, "You will not find peace except the peace of God. Accept this fact and save yourself the agony of yet more bitter disappointment, bleak despair, and sense of icy hopelessness and doubt. Seek you no further. There is nothing else for you to find except the peace of God." My message to you this morning is that your peace is between you and God. Period. It's not between you and anyone else or any set of circumstances, as difficult as that is to accept sometimes. We have to stop saying, "If only they, then I." Say, no, it's between me and Spirit. That's where the power is. It is already with you at every moment of every day. And you have the innate freedom to experience it right here and right now. I'm going to close today with a reading from The Science of Mind titled The Majestic Calm. My inner mind is still. My soul reflects the Most High. My spirit is the Spirit of God in the great calm of the All-Good. I rest in peace and serenity. My life is now reflecting the perfect whole. I am peace. I am calm. I am serenity and complete satisfaction. I am one with God. I am filled with peace. And so it is.